My name is Chase McCormick, and I am terrible with money. Well, that's not true. I am really good at spending it. I'm a starving artist who no longer wanted to starve. I make paintings that nobody wants to look at, music that nobody wants to listen to, clothes that nobody wants to wear, and movies that nobody wants to produce. While I initially started working in finance to fund my creative endeavors, I quickly fell in love with my new role and company. I was selected to be the new social media and events coordinator at the most fun firm in finance. While I don't know much about finance, I've certainly developed an interest to start investing in my future. That's why I thought it would be exciting for me to sit down with financial experts at our company, because if they can teach it to me, they can teach it to you.
Yeah.
Some people are calling this big and beautiful bill the worst bill in modern history. Me personally, I love anything big and beautiful.
Yeah.
So how am I supposed to feel?
I think Elon said this. You can either be beautiful or big. You can't be both.
And I'm 6'4", so that hurts.
Nothing but trouble on my mind. That's the attitude that got my ass off the sidelines. You either ride pine and cry out playing time.
Welcome back to Chasing Finance. We are having the highly anticipated... All right, intro.
You nervous there?
Yeah, kind of a little bit. All right, welcome back to Chasing Finance. You are blessed with the highly anticipated, highly awaited arrival of GK Managing Partner, Venice Beach legend, political activist, and co-host of the Future Money podcast, here to contest the title of GK's top earner, Mr. Hatem Dhiab. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, man.
It's great to have you here.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
I hope I did not make a mistake for saying yes to come on.
We will see. This could be a trap. Who knows? I've got him for an hour. Anything can happen.
No, I'm happy. I'm really excited to be on.
It's good.
Chasing Finance has been getting a lot of traction. I'm hearing a lot of great things. I've listened to a couple of episodes.
Really?
You know, I'm so proud.
You just watched the clips. Come on.
No, I listened to a couple of
No
episodes.
way.
No, I'm proud of you.
Alex is pumped over there.
Yeah, I'm getting more and more excited about it.
Yeah.
For a while, when we were moving, I was less excited about the podcast. And I think after a few of these Managing Partner episodes, I felt like, okay, we got some traction. This is getting good.
I love what you guys are doing with bringing some of these concepts to the younger generation. So it's really cool stuff.
It's what GK is all about, you know. It's the coolest part about our firm is that while you know we work with a lot of high net worth individuals, we're founded on helping young people get invested and learn this stuff early. So it's cool that I kind of get to be a part of that and to teach my friends. You know, my friends are learning stuff. My grandmas are learning stuff. They call me up and they're wishing that they would have heard this podcast 60 years ago.
60 years ago. Wow.
It's fun.
Where's that time machine?
Right?
Yeah.
Well, I thought we should start. I mean, we are talking about American politics today, but it's also 4th of July week.
Oh, yeah?
And I wanted to wish the viewers out there a happy 4th of July.
You know, it's my favorite holiday.
I do.
Yeah.
And I don't know you're an immigrant. And that's also part of what makes this holiday so special to you.
Yeah, it's like the one holiday that I don't care where you're from. I don't care what your religion is. I don't care what, like, you got to celebrate the 4th of July.
We're all American, right?
We're all Americans. We all celebrate independence. You know, this country stands for something that's very unique. And obviously being by the beach. So it's fun, you know.
Yeah.
It was, you know, you can go to the beach. You can see the fireworks. It's always been a fantastic holiday for me.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'm excited. I'm excited. And where did you immigrate from?
I was originally, I'm Tunisian. That's my original background, French Tunisian.
Okay.
And, I was living in France before moving to the States when I was 18 years old. So
Okay. So that's like North Africa, near the Middle East, South Middle East. Where exactly is that?
That is the northernmost part of Africa.
Okay.
It's 20 miles south of Sicily.
Oh,
so
wow.
You could literally, on a good day, you can see Italy, basically.
I've been there.
Yeah.
Okay.
In Sicily. So you could look south and you see it right there.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, today we are having sort of an emergency episode, right?
Yeah, I heard.
I've been trying to kind of convince Hatem to come on the show, but the big sales pitch is, what are we going to talk about? And so I heard murmurs. I take out my AirPods yesterday. What's going on? Is soccer game on? Is there a fire? No, the big, beautiful bill has been passed by the Senate.
Yeah.
And I said, what does that even mean? And Ayel explained it to me a little bit, but we can't have Ayel on for a third time. So I went into Hatem's office, all a little shy, a little polite, and said, hey, I think there's kind of something big deal going on. Is this something that could warrant maybe an emergency episode to get you on the show?
Yeah.
And after some brief negotiations with Alex
and
promised that we'd keep it under an hour.
Little
bribery, some coffees, and here we are to talk about it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of cool because, I've been learning a lot just over the last 24 hours. I didn't want to come in too blind. And today we've got a rich man, we've got a poor man, and we're sitting here to talk about the beautiful bill. Who's it going to benefit? Who's it going to help? And with Hatem being here, if I look a little sleepy, if I look a little, out of it, it is because I did spend the whole night reading the entire bill cover to
all
cover.
900 pages.
Woo.
Oh.
And let me tell you, I've got some questions.
All right, bring it on, because I did not read it.
Well, question number one, has the bill passed?
The bill passed, so like most bills, most big bills, it has to pass Congress first.
Okay.
Then goes to the Senate for some kind of a reconciliation steps, right? So the bill has to be approved by both houses, Senate and Congress, right?
Right.
And then it goes to the president's office, the executive branch, to basically be signed. Right?
Okay.
So it went passed by Congress first. The Senate yesterday, 51-50.
Oh, I heard about this. Overtime, right?
It's overtime.
Yeah.
It was very close. So the Senate has 100 senators, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the tiebreak is usually the vice president, which in this case it was 50-50. And J.D. Vance was the tiebreaker there.
Wow.
And this is actually one of Trump's kind of biggest projects, this tax bill. And obviously highly contested. 50-50 is not a good number for any bill, basically. Highly divisive.
Is that irregular? Was it like a lot of Democrats voting, a lot of Republicans voting? Like, how was the mix?
Yeah, so all the Democrats voted against it, basically.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And what happened is, they've lost a few Republicans because what happened is, there is several factions in the Senate. Some that are actually just pro-Trump, some that are pro-Trump but also don't want deficit to grow. One of the biggest criticism of this bill is that it actually blows up the deficit, which is a big problem that we have in America.
And the deficit is like the national debt?
Correct.
Okay.
Well, actually, the deficit is different. So we'll kind of break it down. The deficit is how much more do we spend every year, which gets added.
It's growing to the debt.
Correct.
That's
added
a deficit.
to the national debt. Yeah.
Right.
It's like, remember chasing the episode with Mia when you said that you didn't have a deficit, and then she literally said you did have a deficit by then.
Okay, we're not talking about my finances today. We don't have time for that, Alex.
It's not it's dissimilar to your finance.
It's just the budget, right?
Right. It's like you bring in $100,000 a year and you spend $200,000. That's a deficit.
And are we upping our contributions? Are we putting money in our Roth?
We can't when we spend more than we bring in.
Okay,
right?
so okay.
Yeah. So going back to the bill, now it has to go back to Congress. So it has to go back to the House of Representatives to be signed on to go to Trump. That has not happened yet.
Oh.
And I'm hearing this morning, we're recording at 11 or noon right now?
12:06.
On July 2nd. I'm hearing that Congress actually might not sign off on it because Elon, our boy Elon, is not happy with it.
Okay, so is he still calling the shots in the House of Representatives?
Yeah, I think he is. I think money speaks, This is kind of America, and he's got a huge obviously he was a big supporter of Trump's and they had a bit of a falling off. But I think right now, this bill is very, I think increased the deficit by almost $2 trillion a year. Depending on who you're looking at or who you're listening to. So that's a big thing. And Elon is definitely against increasing the deficit. So he's lobbying some Congress people to not to pass it.
Well, here's what I'm seeing too is that it seems like there's a lot of sort of mixed incentives for people. So I was reading the bill, and it's obviously, we'll get into more how it's attacking sort of EV initiatives.
Yep.
But it also was pro-American cars, right?
Right.
So I was kind of curious. I mean, I figured Elon wouldn't like it, but it sounds like it's not even for the reasons I initially thought.
Yeah, so there is a lot of things. Every bill incentivizes some things and disincentivize some things, right?
Mm-hmm.
This bill specifically is against all clean energy.
Yeah.
So, for example, Biden had the IRA, which is another tax bill that came up, the Inflation Reduction
IRA,
Act.
we know about that. Individual retirement account.
Nope. Inflation Reduction Act. Yeah, close enough.
Is there an individual? Is there raw?
That's a different thing. That's the retirement.
You tell me about what you're talking about.
So the IRA was basically another tax bill that came up, but was basically to incentivize a lot of the clean energy transition things, right?
Okay.
And what the IRA did, and it helped a lot of the clean energy companies like Tesla by giving $7,500 tax credit. Tax credit, money in your
This is how I was going to get my Tesla.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Tax credit, $7,500 for new cars, $4,000 for used cars. If you buy an EV, right? Reduce the cost of EVs quite a bit, which helped really kind of EV. And the whole idea is that we need to incentivize this new industry per se. And Trump obviously doesn't like EVs for whatever reason. And so this new bill,
because I saw him posting a Tesla at the White House a couple months ago
when they were friends.
Yeah, and all of a sudden,
politics, are tough in that sense, right?
Yeah.
Like you're friends one day and not friends the other day. Now, the other thing that's really problematic is this IRA also had a tax credit for installing solar panels on your house.
Oh yeah, I had a question about that because you have solar panels, right?
I have solar panels in my house, and I got 30% tax credit on the cost of installing it. So if it cost me $30,000 to install it, I get a $10,000 tax credit, right? So just again, more incentives for people to install solar energy and buy EVs and so forth.
Okay.
And obviously, this is detrimental to Tesla, detrimental to Elon's business. But I think more importantly, what Elon is saying, and a lot of the conservative in Congress and in the Senate are saying is just this bill, it just blows up the deficit and therefore blows out the debt. And that's really what Trump said, that he's not going to do that.
And does Elon really mean that, or is he just mad about the EV stuff?
I honestly don't know what Elon means.
I think I've heard you say that on Schwab a few times.
Yeah. I don't know what he means. I think everyone is perplexed about what's driving him. But I know for fact that there is a big negative for Elon's businesses, right? And obviously the falling out with Trump is not great. I think also the other thing is Tesla, without getting into much detail, there is something called the zero emission EV credits.
Okay.
Which is basically something that California has, where you get, if you are producing EVs or clean energy cars, you have these credits that you can sell to other polluters, right? And that means they can reduce their emission because they buy these credits, right? This is a huge business for Tesla. I mean, to a point where the last quarter it was almost $600 million.
Oh, wow.
And they will lose
They're wiping that?
They will lose that.
Jeez.
So again, not a great bill for clean energy.
Yeah.
This is an investment theme for us in GK, right? So
massive.
So I can see why Elon may be pissed.
Okay. And so have we ever seen, well, like first I want to get into more what we were kind of talking about, right? There's all these pros and cons. So someone like Elon, right? He has pros, he has cons. There's other parts of the bill you're looking at, someone might get, there's a benefit of like tip money or like there's a lot of pros and cons for everyone that may not be as party dividing as we think, or like even across economic levels, there might be incentives for rich people, but there's also is disincentive a word, or deteriorate, deters, whatever.
Deterrence,
Yeah. So
Disincentive is a word.
Okay.
Good word. Yeah. No, that's a good point. I think like whenever you're investing, whenever you're kind of advising people, you have to always remove your emotions out of things and try to be objective about when you look at these things, right?
Yeah.
And like anything, there is positive and there is negative in this bill, right?
Yeah.
The problem is it's very big. It's 900 pages long. It has everything in it. And as everything,
So much
shit.
Yeah.
There is some good stuff and there is some really bad stuff. I think if you go back, the main thing about this bill, the main object that really is driving this bill is 2017, Trump had another tax bill, which reduced the top tax rate and put all these things that were temporary. Okay. And this bill makes all these things that they put in 2017 permanent.
Oh,
so we don't lose some of the tax cuts that were put in almost 8 or 9 years ago. That was the main driver of this bill, right? And some of that is positive, depending on who you are, depending on how much money you make. Depends on what.
Positive for which one of us? I'm curious.
For lower earners, positive.
Oh.
For people that live in red states, positive.
Okay.
For people that live in blue states, California, New York, not very positive.
All right.
Right? And we can talk about
I've got I've got all the specifics here. So first I want to just talk about the bill in general, right? In the past, have we ever seen a bill like kind of this magnitude that incorporates this many things?
Oh, yeah. Think about politics in Congress is just a bunch of negotiations, right? So everyone kind of adds some stuff to it.
Yeah.
And that's why how these bills become so massive. And frankly, it's actually disgusting because the reality is everyone kind of is looking after their own interests and their state's interests.
Sure.
So it becomes just a bunch, like we're not thinking strategically. We're just thinking, hey, what makes sense for me today, right? So that's why you have these bills that, will help coal industry, will help, build bridge in, to nowhere or something like this that you will oftentimes see in these bills. And you don't get to read these things. I mean, obviously you read these things.
Obviously, yeah. Not all of us get to read these things.
Yeah, right. Not all of us. But it is 900 pages. I guarantee you we're going to find some shit.
Yeah. Well, here's what I'm thinking too is coming into this, I thought that like Trump wrote this bill, Trump proposed it, but now what I'm starting to realize is that there were a lot of cooks in the kitchen on this one. So is that governors? Is that different members of the House? Who's kind of the ones kind of adding or subtracting?
I mean, that's what lobbying is, right? That's what, like, for example, in this bill that got taken out by the Senate, a lot of the tech companies wanted to remove any regulation for AI, right? Has nothing to do with taxes. But they wanted to put that in. Thankfully, Senate took that out.
Yeah.
But there is a lot. So all these lobbying groups, so all these different interest groups have kind of conversations with Congress, with the administration, and they kind of drive the narrative around what points are very important. And that's how these bills get created.
And what are the tech companies, what are they offering to these as the lobbyists? Like, we're going to give you money, obviously. But then who gets that money?
I mean, at the end of the day, right? Politicians have to get reelected. And in order for them to get reelected, they need to get contributions. And that's why you've seen a lot of the tech executives at Trump's inauguration, So it's just kind of a way for them to kind of skirt favor with these politicians, right?
So each politician has like a bank account for their, when they want to run again.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, if you vote for this, then they'll get X amount of money into this account.
There is limits on how much money they can give in.
There's
crazy. Also a lot of soft power. Like a lot of these sometimes Congress people, a lot of these politicians, not even at the highest level, like all the aides and so forth. They once they're done, they go back and they work for Google or Microsoft, whatever lobbying company. So there's like a revolving door between the politics and then the tech companies, whatever industry, by the way, right? So that's when they go and make a bunch of money, and then they go back to Congress. They kind of lobby, So it's just almost like a nefarious, relationship that happens. And that's really the unfortunate part of having big government.
And is it like that in France too?
It's everywhere like this.
It's everywhere?
It's everywhere like this. I mean, obviously in America, I'm a little bit more because there's a lot more corporate power.
Yeah.
And obviously our economy is so much more big than everything else.
Sure.
It's actually maybe even worse in other countries because maybe there's more corruption. This is just how the system is set up, you know?
Yeah, well, I feel like it's funny because we're almost so free. We have so many checks and balances that it actually deters us sometimes in the sense that it makes it a lot harder for things to get done.
Yeah, I mean, yes, but the system is designed that way, which is not a bad thing, actually, sometimes. But, you know, I think the reality is there is a lot of changes that should be done because we got to this place where we have trillions of dollars in debt because we're not thinking strategically as a country.
Yeah. And so you said this is like pretty common, right? These big bills. Is this something that like when a new president comes in, I know they call that the honeymoon phase, like, so he's trying to get all of these things done instead of putting them each into a separate bill that'll take forever. They just kind of want to load it up and pray that it gets passed.
It's every president has signature legislation, right? What am I driving? What's important to me, right?
Yeah.
Obama had the HSA or the healthcare legislation, right? Biden had the IRA, which is the clean energy legislation, right? Trump is the tax bill, right? Which drives some of his priorities. So it's really like every administration. This is why voting really matters. So you have to vote for people that are driving whatever it's important to you.
Yeah.
But this is definitely Trump's kind of signature legislation, basically.
And is if there's one issue, if you're kind of like a single issue voter, right? Could that can happen with us, but that can also happen with Congress, with the House. Like, are they kind of packing all of these things into one and just saying, well, most people are going to vote based off this one issue, and then you can kind of get away sprinkling in all the other stuff?
Yeah, I mean, like abortion being one or debt being another one.
Yeah.
There's a lot of single issue voters. Like, this is just a non-starter for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I think people are nuanced, right? Like, I think at the end of the day, people vote for their own interest, or at least some.
Yeah.
So I think when you set up a bill like this, is going to help you financially, right?
Yeah.
It gives you more money, literally in your pocket. You know, that's going to drive a lot of the votes, right, in Congress, because now you're beyond individual people, and you're now Congress.
It's interesting to think Congress is single issue voters too.
But that's who represents us, right? Like, so Congress people have to represent me, right, and answer to me, right? So for example, some of the senators, some of the Republican senators that voted against this bill are basically, no, my issue is I don't want to blow up the debt. I don't want to keep increasing the debt. I don't want to keep increasing the debt limit, right?
Yeah.
So there is that's happening, and I think that's where you're seeing some opposition to the bill.
Cool.
If we're talking like just financially, would this bill hurt or help Chase's finances?
Good question, Alex.
Because a lot of times, I like Hannah and I at home.
Yeah,
I'm very much someone who can focus on our family and what is going to help us.
Yeah.
She's the opposite. She thinks about every single person in the world and how they're going to be affected.
Hannah is just a better person than you.
For sure. Yeah.
And we know that.
We all know that.
That's the only thing we've really learned on this podcast.
Yeah. But you kind of need one of each, right? You need someone that's also going to focus on your family and the immediate needs.
Well, here's how I answer that question, because that's a really good question. Does it help Chase today? Or does it help him in 5 years? Or does it help him in 10 years?
You should be a politician.
Right? No, I'm not trying not to answer the question. What I'm trying to tell you is, if you think dollars and cents tomorrow, this bill, for example, increases the deduction from $10,000 to $30,000. So in other words, you can actually deduct more expenses from your taxes.
I got that.
Year.
Standard deduction, right?
Standard deduction goes up.
Get ready, guys.
So if you make less than, I think, $200,000 or $150,000, right away, you triple that deduction there, right?
Huge.
Great. So if you're thinking about this year, 100% is the best thing for you.
Oh, good.
But if I'm thinking, oh yeah, I get $2 today, but then now that increases my debt by $3 trillion, right?
Yeah.
And my country is paying $1 trillion in debt every year, right?
Yeah.
I am 24 years old, right? I am mortgaging my future because now the debt is much higher.
Yeah.
So my country can spend less on investing and doing things. So you have to think about what is short-term gain for you and what's long-term impact for you and your family or future family.
Okay.
Most people don't think that long. Most people think about.
I'm learning to think more long-term, though. That's what we've really been talking about.
Yeah.
16 episodes deep. It's like, putting money away now so we can spend it later.
But this is why we got here, right? We got here because every politician has an incentive to do something tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
And we forgot how to invest for the long term. We forgot how to think long term. And that's really the problem with a lot of people in Congress, a lot of people in the Senate.
They want to prove that they're doing something now.
Everyone wants to say, I built this bridge, or I did this project, or I gave you a tax cut, right? That's how you get reelected, right? It's not easy to go out there and say, I had to increase Social Security because we need to make this program more solvent. Or those are hard things to do.
Should we be trying to be able to help our politicians have longer terms? Is that a way that we can try to fix that?
You tell me.
Alex, what do you think?
I can't answer that. No idea.
All right. Well, what I'm learning about bills is it seems like basically on any premise, we're doing this and we're going to get the money from here. And so now what we're saying is we're going to tax cut the rich and then we're going to get the money from basically debt.
Yeah.
Increasing our debt.
Let's break it down, I think, easier, okay?
Okay.
So America is just like Chase. America brings in X amount of money.
$70,000 a year.
70. Oh, wow. Okay. So, all right.
No big deal.
I heard actually in the last episode I listened to, your net worth has increased.
That's what they're saying.
Yeah. That's good. Okay.
We're not looking today, but
let's directly compare this like you're doing.
I like this.
Because he's in a current, with your credit cards and stuff, you kind of are like America right now.
I might have a deficit.
100%.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got a new credit card and I've racked up about almost $3,000 this month.
Okay, so let's talk about your balance sheet.
Yeah.
Okay. So first of all, your income statement. So these are two things: balance sheet, income statement. Balance sheet is how much you're worth.
Okay.
Your income statement is how much you're bringing in. Okay.
All right.
How much you're worth is all of your assets minus all your
liabilities.
Debt. Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Right? So all of your assets are your bank account, your investment account, your retirement account, and so forth, right?
Yeah.
Your income statement is how much you bring in versus how much you spend. So America brings in
10 trillion.
Yeah, 10 trillion. I don't know what the exact tax revenue. I'm gonna figure it out. Yeah, so we bring in about 5 trillion in tax revenue, right?
From taxes?
So taxes, from tariffs.
Tariffs. We know about those.
Yeah, right? We don't like those.
What about from selling things to others? So, like, if we sell, do we sell, like, our military sells weapons to other countries? Do we bring money from that?
Sure. But companies do that.
So other companies
But we get taxes. From doing that.
So
right?
America doesn't actually ever sell anything directly.
America doesn't, like, the only thing that we can sell directly is
ourselves.
Land.
Our land.
Right?
Yeah.
We can sell access.
Okay.
Okay. So if you want to do business in America, you have to pay me. That's tariffs.
Okay, that's tariffs,
right?
Yeah.
Trump wants to sell a golden visa. If you want to come to America, you can pay me $5 million.
I love that. That's not a bad idea.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea, except it defies everything that America stands for.
It's true. There is that.
There is that. If we spend $7 trillion a year in our budget, right, then we have a $2 trillion deficit.
Wait.
Bring in $5 trillion a year.
Oh, there's a 10. Okay, yeah. Money.
Bring in $5 trillion.
Minus 7.
Minus 7. Minus 2. Right?
Bam.
So that's your deficit.
Okay.
Right? So this is you bringing in $70K a year, but spending $100K a year.
Yeah, boy.
Right? That is not a good thing.
Not a good thing.
And what happens with that $2 trillion in excess every year is you have to go and borrow.
And that's credit card debt.
That's your credit card debt, right?
Cool.
And
which I have none.
You have none. That's good. You have positive net worth, right?
Thank you, Mia.
Thank you, Mia. we have, as a country right now, we have negative net worth. We have $30 trillion in debt that we have been racking up over the last few years.
So by that calculation, I'm richer than America?
Pretty much.
A lot richer. Sounds
Except America's balance sheet is a little bit more
but they
higher than you.
Okay, that's true.
Yeah.
My paintings.
Oil doesn't have, you don't have a lot of oil.
I've got paintings. Nobody wants to buy them. Bleach t-shirts are for sale.
Maybe there was something.
We had a big bleach this weekend. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. maybe I need one of those.
We could. Hey, I'll show you some pictures. The Vince Carter one went crazy.
All right. Do you think that's worth $1 million?
I think it could be, depending on. I mean, if I die, my bleach collection will be going through the roof. So you might want to get them now before it's too late.
All right.
That's dark. I don't want to say that.
Can you pitch your own products on the podcast?
I do, yeah. Big and Bleached. We're actually not a registered LLC, so...
He does it all the time, and I mostly cut it out.
He cuts it out most of the time, yeah. Don't try to talk about football either. That's going too.
That's going.
Yeah. But the good news is we're having Robbie on the podcast to talk about, works with a lot of creative business owners.
Okay.
So I'm one of those, but I'm creative, but I'm not quite a business owner.
Okay.
So we're going to be doing about that.
Owner if you generate income.
Well, we're working on it.
I know you're very entrepreneurial, so I know that.
I sure am.
Yeah.
All right. So wait.
Going back,
where were we?
Yeah.
So America is in a
-2 deficit, -2 trillion a year.
Yeah.
And I guess one of the confusing things that I'm still kind of confused about, but I've learned through working here, that debt, you imagine like, okay, well, someone has to own that debt, and it's just other countries.
So you have to find someone to buy your debt, just like you have to have someone to give you a credit card.
Chase Bank.
Chase Bank is, Chase Bank agreed that Chase is actually good credit, so they're going to basically give you some debt.
Pre-approved, baby.
Yeah. One of the coolest things about that is that I think around the first episode of this podcast, he got denied from Chase Bank for a credit card, and then
bringing that up,
just recently got approved.
Oh yeah, Chase is banks are very smart. They know who's good credit, right?
I paid it.
That's exactly it. Where you show the and similar to the country, the U.S. is known to be. That's why they have a AAA rating, or at least they did have a AAA rating.
Moody's.
Right. Moody's downgraded them.
Yeah.
But the U.S., because we are the number one power in the world, we are considered to be one of the best credit because we always pay our debt. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Why do we always pay our debt? It's because we can always print more dollars.
Yeah.
And we can always have a lot of resources. Imagine if you can print your own dollars.
I've had that dream.
Exactly. Not a great thing because you create inflation.
Probably corrupt me too.
Because countries have a credit score essentially as well.
Pretty
right?
much. Countries have credit scores.
It's made up of, we learned on one of the last podcasts, numbers and letters.
Oh, we did.
Yeah,
Remember?
that is like AAA or a 3As or things like that, depending on. And it really depends on how much resources you have, how big your economy is.
So what countries are buying our debt then?
Japan is our number one buyer of debt. China used to be a big buyer of our debt. Not anymore, yeah.
Okay.
The Europeans buy our debt.
Could they buy our debt and then like go to war with us, and then like that could be a way to
they can buy it and then go to war, and they can sell our debt and then cause more of a havoc.
They can refinance,
or they can sell it, right? The rates go down. So our debt, right? This is why interest rates are so important because our debt has. Why would Japan buy our debt? Because Japan needs liquidity, and Japan needs to earn something on their cash, on their excess savings. Right?
Yeah. So is Japan in debt?
Japan has their own debt, but they also they export a lot, so they have a lot of extra dollars.
So who are they in debt to?
They are in debt to themselves.
Oh,
yeah, because they basically print a lot of money, right? So they're able to Japan is an interesting situation because they've been stimulating the economy for a long time because they have demographic issue. Their population is going down basically. So they have to print a lot of money to stimulate their own economy. But also Japan exports a lot of stuff. So they have excess cash. And that excess cash goes to invest in U.S. debt. Japan interest rates are very low. U.S. interest rates are higher. So you can have your dollars earning you 5%. which is what we can earn here, 4 or 5% on treasuries. So that's why the Japanese will buy our US.
So they're getting solid margins on us.
Correct. I mean, solid, it's 4%.
Okay. Well, I've got an outline basically of like what I've kind of read is going on from this bill.
All right.
And I thought we could go over it together. But some of it we've already talked about.
Okay.
But first, I wanted to help kind of define some terms that we're going to hit. So first, we could kind of try to learn what these things mean. I think it could help us as we go on.
Let's go.
So the first one is SALT.
Yeah. State and local deduction.
Okay. So state and local. So deduction means it's a tax, right?
Yeah.
So is that like a tax write-off?
Yeah. So if you made, so basically the IRS allows you to deduct some things.
Right.
You have your itemized deduction. I think I'm probably have that question in there.
Charity, right? You can write off for charity.
Right. Or you have your standard deduction.
Standard deduction.
So, okay. So the standard deduction right now is $10,000.
Okay.
I'm going to increase it to $30,000. Okay.
That's new.
If you itemize your deductions, so you have charitable giving, you have other expenses, maybe medical expenses, maybe losses from some like the Palisade, which is something we should talk about.
Oh yeah,
you can deduct those. So if you can itemize your deduction, you can increase. You can actually deduct more. Okay.
Okay.
SALT are before 2017, before Trump's first tax thing, you could deduct all of your state income taxes, and all your property taxes
from your federal tax return.
Correct.
So that's good.
It's amazing.
Yeah, that's before Trump.
Before Trump,
and he wants us to pay more taxes.
So he took that away from us in 2017.
What?
100%.
I thought he was pro-business, pro-money.
Well, a lot of states don't have taxes, right? So if you live in Florida, that's actually a good thing.
Mom and dad live in Florida now.
100%, right? Right. So, but if you live in California...
And Trump lives in Florida, damn it. Okay.
100%.
So he was doing that to encourage less state taxes, less money going through the state, more money going federal.
Theoretically, that's a better incentive for people to live outside of California, New York, and higher tax states. But also, what they were saying is that other states were subsidizing California because we were taking these massive deductions.
Okay.
When they didn't have those deductions, right? So that's the reason why, right?
Okay.
But if you lived in California and let's say you made I don't know, $300,000.
I'll say $1 million.
Let's say if you made $1 million, which is not a lot of people that do that, but let's say if $1 million, 130 in state income tax in California, right? And let's say you're paying a $5 million house, so that's $75,000 a year in taxes. So that's $200,000 deductions that's been taken away from you.
Dang.
Right?
Now I know why everybody here hates Trump.
Yep. That's exactly it.
All right. And what is Medicaid?
Medicaid is a state program for providing health insurance.
Okay. And what's AMT?
AMT is alternative minimum tax. Alternative minimum tax is basically it's a calculation that was done back in the 70s, I think, to make sure that people did not take too many deductions and pay at least 26 to 27% federal tax, right?
That makes sense.
But the problem is, before 2017, they never indexed it for inflation. So most people will hit AMT if you made $200,000 to $250,000. So what happened with Trump's, and this is when I say some bills are good, some things are good, some things are bad.
Yeah.
What Trump's bill did is they increased the threshold for AMT, so less people are subject to it.
Okay. And what's R&D?
R&D is research and development. So, So basically, I think what you're referring to is the accelerated depreciation of R&D.
Yeah, I think. We'll get into it. Let's keep going, and then we'll go line for line. What is an omnibus?
Omnibus just means that you put a bunch of different bills together and to have one bill.
So this is an omnibus.
Yeah.
Got it. And then I already wrote AMT again, but we already did that one.
Okay.
Standard deduction.
Yeah.
We kind of talked about that already.
Yeah.
Maybe I could try to define that.
Yeah, maybe you should define it.
Standard deduction. Well, a deduction is what you take from your taxes. So standard should mean like that is what. It's not a minimum because we just talked about minimum.
So to simplify things,
Mhm.
right? They said everyone can have $10,000 standard deduction. So if you made $50,000, you take $10,000, you only pay tax on $40,000.
Okay.
That's your standard deduction. They're increasing that to $30,000. So now for the same $50K, you take $30,000, you only pay tax.
And that's for everyone.
Correct.
Independent of your bracket. Okay. And then an EV we all know is
electric vehicle.
Of course. If you're not a fan of GK, you don't know what an EV is, but tax bracket, how does that work exactly? Let's just go over it. Maybe I can define this one. Tax bracket, you pay based off how much you make. There's different thresholds. And pretty cool, I'm in the third lowest, actually. I'm between 50 and 100K, which is not so bad.
Yeah. So the U.S. has a progressive tax rate, right? Which is basically the more money you pay, the more money you make, different thresholds, you pay higher taxes.
So we're going to be going over, if you're in this bracket, they might make you pay more, they might increase for lower bracket, or they might increase for higher tax brackets, depending. So we're going to go over that. And then final one, gift tax.
Yeah, gift tax is everybody can gift a certain amount every year and a certain amount for their lifetime. And basically, a lifetime gift is about 50. They're going to increase that to 15 million, I think. Anything above that, you pay 50%. The person that gives the money pays 50%. And it's done so it prevents people from giving money away to other generations without incurring estate taxes. Okay. Right? So that's what the gift tax comes.
Government just wants to get their hands on everything.
I mean, they provide you defense and services,
freedom, safety.
Correct. Nothing is free. Those F-35 or those B-2 bombers, they're not cheap.
Yeah. They could do a little better with the sidewalks. I was on a run yesterday. It's insane how...
Go to Michigan and try driving on a road, bro.
As you know, I'm very involved with local politics.
It's true.
That is one of my biggest gripes, is because we pay all these taxes in LA and they are not putting money in the infrastructure. It's ridiculous.
Or even the roads, right? So I drive from Hancock Park to here every day, and I do the same drive over and over and over again. And I now know which lanes the potholes are in, which is pretty much every lane. So I have to I change lanes depending on what's going to damage my tires less.
You know how much money the city of LA pays every year?
I remember you saying this to me
for
recently.
Lawsuits because people fall on sidewalks that are not done.
Something crazy.
Hundreds of millions of dollars a year in law and just legal settlements.
Damn.
Because we can't fix our side. It's ridiculous.
So when we were on the run yesterday, there was a piece of sidewalk. So we're running, Hannah and I next to each other.
Oh, we forgot to go for our run yesterday. You went with Hannah?
Well, I thought you were going to be in San Diego.
He's like, I don't want to hang out with you.
Yeah.
We'll do it. But,
trust me, I get it.
So we're running, and there's a piece of sidewalk, like one of the big squares, that kind of looks like it's completely detached and it's been uprooted by a tree or something. And at the same time, I step on the right side of it, Hannah steps on the left side. And if we had our timing off a little bit more, the whole thing shifted like a teeter-totter.
Yeah.
And I bumped her up in the air a little bit.
Oh, man.
Which someone could get so hurt doing
There's
that.
a lawsuit there ready to happen if you got hurt.
We just got to do that run a bunch of times.
Where is that branch?
That is not what I recommend, Chase. But it's unfortunate, right? That's kind of should be our, local cities, that number one role should be provide security and safety, and then making sure that our sidewalks and our roads are fixed.
Yeah.
And they're just kind of lost the plot on that,
Yeah. All right. Well, let's reel it back in. Yeah. Some people are calling this big and beautiful bill the worst bill in modern history. Me personally, I love anything big and beautiful.
Yeah.
So how am I supposed to feel?
I'm going to use, I think Elon said this, you can either be beautiful or big. You can't be both.
And I'm 6'4", so that hurts.
Well, it has nothing to do with you.
All right.
I think there is more pork and more shit in this bill than actually most want.
I was reading it, and there was a few discrepancies.
Yeah, there's a lot of shit that, it's definitely unscrupulous and not great.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I think I don't think this meets what we need right now as a country.
Okay.
Which is we need to kind of rein in our
It's divisive, yeah.
Yeah, and it's also very divisive, right? Why is it 50-50, right? Because a lot of people don't agree with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think again, it's beautiful in the eye of the beholder, right?
Sure.
Like, so some people will think it's beautiful if you're in the coal industry because you have some incentive for coal. It's ugly if you are in clean energy because you take all the incentives.
Yeah.
So it's just, different people will look at it differently.
Okay. And so alternative minimum tax, right? We went back to that. I wanted to touch on that real quick. So they're raising it. The minimum you pay is being raised.
So again, like when we talked about initially, that what this bill does is makes the 2017 tax cuts permanent.
Okay.
What happened in 2017? They raised the threshold to hit that AMT.
So now they're making that permanent.
Permanent, so you don't have to worry about it. Because what happened is, had they not done this, next year or the end of this year, actually, all those tax cuts from 2017 will expire, and then tax rates will go up, so AMT thresholds will go down, a lot of things will happen, right? So that's what they did.
And this is for rich people, how much they can write off. Is essentially they're saying you have to pay this minimum, you can't write off all of this money.
The AMT is kind of a parallel calculation on your taxes where if you have too many write-offs, the AMT will say, no, you can't have too many write-offs, so you have to pay a minimum of 26%.
Tax. Okay, so I'm not going to be affected by that.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
You
get some time. You get some time.
Cool. And the salt deduction.
If you tell me you have $1 million painting, so
we'll talk.
You may be there,
We'll talk. $1 million T-shirt. It could be the first ever sale. Okay, so salt deduction also increased. So that means that we can take more off of our state and local. So that's good for California. Like, we pay out the ass in taxes.
So 2017, before, you could deduct everything, right? 2017, they maxed it at $10,000.
Okay.
So all of us in California
are paying,
who had homes and paid local and state income taxes, basically got hit hard, right? California, New York, again, high earning state or high income tax states. Now they're increasing that threshold to, I think, 30 or 40,000.
Yeah, I read up to 40.
Correct. So
does that mean I can write off all my state and local taxes then?
Yeah, if you have them, yeah.
That's huge. Okay.
Yeah.
So, it was already at 10%. So this actually, I was going to say, who does this benefit the most? So it seems like it might benefit me the most, like lower income earners.
Yeah, it should be.
But also, I think it benefits everyone. It sounds like, I guess, more people in a high income state.
Yeah, and I haven't read the 900 pages yet.
Yeah,
so.
You'll get there.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do a part 2 or something.
I think the reality is the higher salts are pretty good for a lot of people. That's something that a lot of the blue states wanted to add there.
Yeah.
But then making the tax cuts permanent, that's definitely benefits the high earners. So that.
How do you make something permanent? Can't someone else come in, the new president, and change that?
Yeah,
but there's a lot of corporate tape.
Permanent just means indefinitely. It's a thing rather than having an expiration.
To ratify a bill in this country,
someone else change it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're getting into the weeds right now, but every time you do a bill, you have to put the fiscal impact of that, or at least before. When they did the 2017 bill, they made them temporary because because there's something called the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, which basically looks at the impact of every bill on the total debt, on the total deficit, and so forth. And what they did, that way to get around is like, we're only doing this for 10 years, so we're not going to blow the deficit beyond that, right? That's why they made it temporary, right?
Okay.
And now 10 years later, like, oh shit, like we have to do something because if we don't do something, the tax rates are going to go up on everyone and so forth, right? And the way that, and this is kind of how Trump and his people are selling this bill, is they're saying, well, we're going to do this, tax cuts, investment, blah, blah, blah. We're going to be able to increase the GDP, so we're going to grow much higher, right? That's how the calculation works, right? But yeah, a new Congress, a new, that's why election matter. A new president comes in, different priorities. They may change the bill, but then what are they going to do? They're going to raise taxes. It's really hard to raise taxes, right?
They basically just confuse the hell out of people to get them to vote for it, and then they don't really know what they're voting for, and then you end up with some shitty thing.
How many Congress people do you think read the bill?
None of them.
900 pages, like 2 days ago.
That's like 1.5 Harry Potter books.
Thank God for ChatGPT, right?
Yeah.
Like,
ChatGPT had some work for our Congress this weekend.
Right? Yeah.
And if Alex did want to read the bill, and could he just find that online? Like, is there a place that he could go?
I'm not going to read the bill, but I'll go on ChatGPT.
But is it published? Like, where is it published?
Oh, yeah, they'll publish it.
Okay.
It's all available to you.
Cool. Not that I don't know. I'm just asking for you guys.
What did you read?
I don't know what I was reading, but... All right, so standard deduction.
So what are some of the things in there, Chase, because we went over it yesterday?
Well, I talked to my granny. She's pumped. Larger standard deduction for seniors.
Yeah, that's good.
So what is it, $6,000 extra? What is that really going to do? Like, what even is the point of that?
$500 a month more.
And they just get to...
if you're living on fixed income, that's meaningful, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're making $3,000 a month and you're living on that, and then now you get $500 more, that's meaningful. That's almost 15% of your income more every month.
But is that actually you're getting that in cash, or you're getting that in your deduction from your taxes?
Pay less taxes.
You pay your less taxes.
Yeah,
okay.
So it's net cash in your pocket.
I don't even know if my grandma pays taxes, to be honest, but
yeah, a lot of people
she's doing her best.
Yeah, but if I think it's a credit, so you get actually more cash.
Okay. And are tax brackets changing too? So they're saying, like, we talked earlier about kind of the shifting tax brackets. More people, so richer people are paying less and poorer people are paying more? Is that what I'm seeing?
Honestly, I don't know what the new brackets will be. I think there may be some changes there. We should probably get one of the tax people on this podcast to talk about this. I don't even know why I'm talking
call
about
up
this.
Max. I told Max to be ready for anything.
Yeah, there was some stuff. I've been looking at a lot of just like people that kind of try to break it down for the average person. And because there's no one spelling out like, okay, if you're in this tax bracket, you're going to pay less in taxes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But if they look at the whole bill, people are saying that, at least the way I interpreted it, the two lowest tax brackets are going to be paying more in taxes, but then the rest are going to be saving money on taxes.
Yeah. See, that's the thing about our tax system. It's so convoluted. Like if you go to Scandinavia, go to Sweden, your tax filing is one page, right?
Yeah.
Not saying that that's better or not, but it's just a lot simpler, right? This is why we have to have CPAs, we have to have tax people, because it's so complicated and convoluted. And it could be, you and I could be exactly the same person, but I bought a car and you didn't buy a car. Our tax is going to be different, right? So I think that's the reality is this bill is going to impact everyone differently. And we don't even know what's in it just yet, right? So we just have to wait it out and figure it out. And hopefully our tax team will figure it out.
We got Max on the line. We got Kevo. Samson just had a kid. Congratulations, by the way.
Nice.
Samson
awesome.
Jr. And that was a good segue, too, talking about the car, because I also saw there might be some hope for me in getting a car loan.
Yeah, they're talking about making interest on car loans deductible, okay? So currently, interest in home loans is deductible, right? Up to $750,000 of loan.
Okay.
Right? They're talking about making any interest that you pay on your car also deductible.
For American cars.
For American cars, right?
Which we love.
Whatever that means.
Yeah.
Right? Because do you know if your car is made in America?
Oh, I know.
How many pieces there is in a car, and how many of that is made in Canada and Mexico?
All I know is at my grandpa's house, if you're not driving American, you are not allowed to park there.
What's an American car?
Chrysler, GM, Ford, and even Tesla.
Okay. But do you know that most of those cars are made in Canada? Except for Teslas.
Did my entire city go under because of it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Detroit.
Go walk around to the car factory in Detroit.
Even American cars, right? A lot of the parts are made in Mexico.
Yeah,
like you can
Ford has a huge factory there now.
Right, maybe you can actually assemble it in Detroit, but actually a lot of the pieces that you have to get.
So that's interesting. So is that still an American car?
100%. I mean, I don't know what that means.
Yeah,
right?
How are they going to define that?
The supply chain, the global supply chain is very, very convoluted and complicated. Like you can't just say, I'm going to just make a car in America, 100% of it is going to be made in America. Because there's a lot of things that we're just not good at making in America.
It's true.
You know? But yeah, that's an incentive. But also at the same time, like if you're buying a car and you want to buy an EV, you got to do it before September 30th because you can get that $7,500 tax credit, which is going to be gone after this.
I got to put that bonus to good use.
Yeah.
Do I put it in my Roth? Do I get a car? Well, talk to Mia.
You talk to Mia. That's exactly where you have a financial advisor.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So the gift tax we talked a little bit about too. What I was thinking is a little crazy. I thought we could maybe skip it, but then I'm looking at my notes here. It's $15 million gift tax for an individual. So that's big money. So this is eliminating kind of the big players to be able to move around significant amounts of money without paying taxes on it.
Right. It's actually not if you think about it, right? Like you work all your life, maybe you buy a property, house that grows up in value. You're safe in your 401k, you know? And what this has done is to allow you to pass on or give to your beneficiaries or heirs up to $15 million without the government penalizing you.
Right? But there's some sort of penalty or tax. The person who gets the money pays, right?
No, not up to $15 million.
You can get any sort of. My grandma could write me a check and I have to pay nothing on that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Oh wow.
You can up to $15 million. Above that, grandma has to pay 50%. So it's the gift tax.
So it's not income to me?
Yeah, it's not income to you.
Wow.
Okay. If you get more, if you have to declare it because we have to keep track of it over the years, but you don't pay tax on gifts up to 15 million. And even up to that, the person that gets it, don't pay the tax. The person that gifts it is the one that pays the tax.
Sweet.
Until that's in their life, right? But
my birthday's coming up.
But if they die, then that's not this.
The gift tax is also synonymous with the estate income tax. So the estate tax is also up to that threshold. It's kind of, they work the same way, right? You can either pass on that much or gift that much, right?
So inheritance is that the same?
Same as
so after so in your life up to 15 million. Say you do all of that, and then you reach your limit, and then you have another 15 million to pass on.
Then that's
50%.
That's when this estate income tax can come into play. Yeah.
Wow,
there is ways. This is why you work with us. There's ways of mitigating that and planning around it. But that's pretty much what happens. Yeah.
And I probably learned this in Nico's episode, but when you have a trust or a will, you inheritance after death, do you pay taxes on that?
Depends on how it's structured. Depends on kind of trust, revocable. There's a lot of things.
There's facts. So sometimes you do, sometimes you don't.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you have nothing set up, or is your person going to have to pay taxes on that?
Nothing set up is probably the worst thing you can do. Because it is probate and there's a lot of things that you have to think about.
Okay.
But you again, the 15 million is kind of a threshold.
Yeah.
And it's done really to kind of prevent billionaires and 100 millionaires to gift a bunch of money without having to pay taxes.
Okay. Well, now I want to move on a little bit to these sort of hidden agenda things, because we've talked about a lot of the big points in this, but there's also these things I'm finding out about. They're calling it waste, fraud, and abuse, but really they're slashing Medicaid, they're slashing unemployment cuts.
Yeah.
Is that sort of like maybe a little bit of a hidden agenda of how, they can kind of get away with that by making it kind of about these bigger issues?
I mean, it's hard to answer this without kind of being politically motivated, right? Like there is a lot of There's people that think that people are abusing Medicaid.
Yeah.
They're not working or trying to get benefits, even though they don't deserve them and so forth, right?
Yeah.
So there's that kind of faction.
Because this I didn't hate so much because they did say like it's more about proving it. It's more structured around.
Correct. You have to
show you work 20 hours a week. And if you're disabled or if you have children, then you don't even have to do that.
I don't think anybody disagrees with the fact there's a lot of fraud and abuse in the system.
Mm-hmm.
I think what the I guess the gap is how much fraud versus how much people really need help, right? I think what we've seen with Doge is there's maybe a little bit less fraud than people expected in the government, right? But I think, again, it's about an agenda, right? The Republican agenda is always about smaller government, less handouts, and so forth, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the Democratic agenda is more about more socialism and more kind of helping people. So that's really where you see the gap going. What's right? What's wrong? I mean, I personally feel that we always want to help the people that maybe need help in a way, but also we need to incentivize the right things, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know what that's in the middle, but I don't think any party is doing that right now.
Exactly. And then also, I think when I said hidden agenda, I was more pointing to also the fact that they are increasing military for ICE stuff. We don't have to really go on that, but it does seem like, they're kind of trying to make it about all these bigger things while meanwhile, that's a super divisive issue. Could this cause more protests?
So you kind of have like 70% of our budget is just entitlements. Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, right? That's like not even in the bill.
Yeah.
We're not touching that. So we're only dealing with the other 30%, right?
Okay.
And always military has been the number one spending for America, right?
Mm-hmm.
Almost $900 billion a year that we spend, maybe going to $1 trillion now. And do we need to spend that much money? I mean, the world is obviously more dangerous, but we also have, 70 different bases all over the world, blah, blah, blah. So there's a lot of that. The fact that military is something that never gets cut. Do we need to spend that much money on military? I don't know. It's definitely above my pay grade.
I think not, but what do I know? I like being safe. I'm in my cushy life.
Like if you look at the F-35s, right? This is kind of what's messed up. The F-35, amazing plane, blah, blah, blah. It's made in 40 different states because each Congress person wanted to get a piece of it so they get money to their state. Is that efficient? I don't think so.
Doesn't, It's interesting. I think military is a big thing because I used to really, it's like one of those things where you're like, okay, do we need to put all this money toward this and then end up just selling these weapons to other countries that we eventually fight? Maybe not, but then it's like, I'm not on the front lines fighting for our freedom. I'm sitting here in a safe country. So am I really the one to critique that? Am I really the one to say?
Yeah, and we can't disagree that the world is more dangerous.
Yeah.
Right? So I think that's, after the Iraq War, you're too young to remember that. Our deficit starts really going up in the Iraq War. We spent trillions of dollars, right? These wars are expensive. Right?
Yeah.
And I think that's really what we need to think about is do we need to be entangled in these things?
I know. But it's also it shouldn't take a 9/11 type incident for us to then realize how important our safety is, right?
Yeah, 100%.
I think that's why, when that happened, and obviously I wasn't really super conscious for that, but that everyone was, okay, we need to go to war, we need to be protected. No one was fighting that.
Do you need to invade and fight the wrong country?
Maybe not. Maybe not. I don't know.
I don't. So that's the problem, right?
Yeah.
And this is why what's problematic about some of these politicians is you have all these warmongers or hawks that just kind of the Iraq War is really one of the biggest example of just us being drawn into a war that we did not need to be in, and just accumulating trillions of debt as a result of that.
Yeah,
that makes sense. That's known now. Iraq had nothing to do with September 11th.
Really?
It's a fact.
Damn. No one told me.
So,
I'll never forget, I will say, when we killed Osama bin Laden.
That's cool.
I was in the 4th grade, and I didn't know any of this war, political agenda, anything, but me and my boys were fired up coming into school that day.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
I mean, listen, I lived in America on September 11. It was probably one of the most seminal moment in my life because, like, I think, like, after that moment, when you see those towers come down, you really feel the sense of, like, we got to fight these assholes. Like, we really got to, it brought us all together, and this is kind of what we did.
Mm-hmm.
It's just unfortunate that we went after the wrong people because it became something different. Right?
Yeah.
And this is, why you have to understand what you want to fight for and what you're fighting for, basically. But,
and that's why it's also important to have central intelligence when we're not fighting a war, so that when bad things happen, we're prepared. We know who to go after.
Correct. Yeah.
Well, actually, okay, I was a little curious about expensing research and development. How would that even work, like, at GK?
Ooh, I mean...
Is it for a tech company only?
So, yeah, mostly for tech companies, right?
Mm-hmm.
GK, for example, right now is spending a lot of money on software and things like that, right?
Did you just point at Kyle when he walked by?
Yeah, I just point at Kyle, our head of data, who's doing a lot of stuff, right?
Yeah.
I don't know the exact rules, but basically what this bill does is you can actually, before you could not expense as much of that research. Sometimes research doesn't lead somewhere.
So
right?
I throw events here. If I wanted to research all the best restaurants and bars on Santa Monica,
I don't think that's considered research and development.
Okay. We'll find the line.
See, this is what happens with the tax bill, right? Everyone tries to find an angle. How is that going to benefit me,
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we've also found out a lot. Obviously, Trump and Elon have been fighting. I've heard you talk about it on Schwab, on Bloomberg, right? This is a big, monumental thing leading up to this tax bill.
Yeah.
Trump actually said over the last couple of days that now he's looking into deporting Elon.
It's kind of ridiculous.
Do you think that all of these sort of clean energy initiatives kind of being flushed down the toilet are due to their feud? Is there any way that if they were on better terms,
I don't think anybody knows what what's in Elon's head.
Sure.
Because he changed his mind several times. There is no doubt that this tax bill is bad for Tesla, bad for Elon's businesses.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's a lot of incentives to invest in clean energy, right? Tesla makes EVs, they make solar panels, they make batteries, all of which had tremendous tax benefits. So, Tesla right away is going to lose these EV credits. They're going to lose the tax credit for EVs.
Yeah.
They're going to lose the tax credit for battery packs. I mean, those are like really massive incentives for people to buy EVs, and solar panels are going to be gone. So, yeah, it sucks.
Do you hear about the tax on people who drive electric vehicles because they don't pay the gas tax?
I heard that. Yeah. They're actually not even going to remove the benefits and actually create
more. It's like $250.
Yeah, they're gonna, which I get it, but whatever. You know what I mean? It's just, and I am biased because I believe in this sector because I don't think EVs are just an industry. I think it's the future in many ways. So we need to invest in like better batteries. We need to invest in a cleaner energy, and I think global warming is real. All these things, right? So us as a country incentivizing those industries actually is a good thing because you can innovate, can kind of create all these things. What we're doing right now with this tax bill is literally disincentivizing that investment, which means that we're going to lag behind countries like China and other places who are investing heavily in these things, right?
It's almost like annihilating like major pieces of the tech industry.
Are we going to go back to basically build coal plants?
Yeah.
Like, how stupid is that?
Well, also, given like the recent tensions in the Middle East, why would we be encouraging the American public to go back to oil?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we can chew gum and walk, right? We don't have, I mean, I think that's Biden's problem too, is
he can't chew gum and walk at the same time and stay awake.
Pun intended. I think the problem is he disincentivized the oil industry in many ways, or he basically went against the fossil fuel industry, right? And now the pendulum is swinging on the other side, right? The reality is we need to do both, right? We need to encourage the fact that we have resources. We need to make them cleaner and so forth, but also incentivize the industries of the future, which is the clean energy, I think.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I think before we wrap it up, we should have a little bit of fun. Hey, let's play a little game.
This was all fun, man. Talking taxes all day. I don't even know why I'm the guy talking about taxes.
We just need someone smarter than us to explain.
Someone that knows a lot about everything.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for having me, man.
Yeah. Well, like I'd love to kind of play a little game of hypotheticals, right? So like maybe we could predict some stuff of if this does get passed. You know, starting off like what are your biggest concerns? What would have you most excited?
Yeah. Biggest concerns, obviously clean energy.
Mm-hmm.
That's really something that we have to look at from
Yeah.
an investment standpoint. Not just Tesla, a lot of the clean energy companies were going to be hurt by this.
Sure.
You've seen it before the bill passed. A lot of the solar companies got crushed. Like a lot of this stuff is bad. I think it's bad for humanity in general, not just from an investment standpoint.
Are other countries as progressed as we are in clean energy resources?
Way better.
Oh, really?
40% of cars in China are EVs sold. It's 8% in the States.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think Norway, 80% are EVs.
Oh, shit.
Right.
Okay.
So we're way behind, right? Now, again, maybe not everyone wants to drive an EV, but the reality, I'd rather us invest in those energy or those sectors and invest back in just ICE cars, you know?
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then what would have you excited, though? Because I'm hearing that the rich are not going to have to pay as much in taxes.
Well, listen, I think incentivizing business investment, which some of the provisions in the bill are that, extending tax cuts long term, I think that's good. I'm not excited as a Californian because I still have to pay a lot of taxes and I don't get to deduct them.
Yeah.
I think increasing the standard deduction to $30,000 or $40,000 is good for a lot of people in the state.
It mean more to me than it might to you, though.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I also wrote down, do you agree it will likely add a lot to the national debt? It seems like
that's a no-brainer.
Foregone conclusion.
It's just, is it $2 trillion or $4 trillion?
I got a stat actually from Jeff Kim said it could be up to 1 million a year. I think trillion was what he said.
Yeah. No, actually, I think it's between 2 and 4 trillion a year. It's nuts.
So besides like EV, what other sectors will be most affected?
Oil and gas will benefit from this. I saw there was provision to help coal plants. Not something that we'll ever invest in, but that's going to benefit from this. I think insurance companies are going to be struggling with this because of the cuts to Medicare.
Yeah.
There's a company called Centene that was down 30% this morning.
Okay.
It's a big health insurer that does Medicaid plans.
Centene?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's a lot of, I think you start seeing what the impacts are. The government has a lot of impact on which sectors will thrive, right? And even though we don't want big government, this will impact a lot of industries.
Okay. And what kind of market shifts would you expect? What's already priced in? What does priced in mean?
What's priced in mean? Nothing is ever priced in until it happens.
Okay.
Right? Priced in means that the market already anticipated that, and then it just priced it in. It's really hard to know what's gonna look. I think there's a lot of promise that growth is gonna increase because of this bill. I am a little bit doubtful of that, or a little bit skeptical. But we'll see. Nobody knows till things happen, right? But again, we have to unpack this whole thing and see what
it has to get passed first, right?
Yeah. It's going to be interesting in the next couple of days for sure.
And things like inflation, interest rate, does like the national debt have a major effect on that? Like,
I think that's really the biggest one. Is right now in America, we pay $1 trillion in interest on our debt.
Okay.
This is today.
And
happening.
Japan is one of, you said?
We pay it to Japan. We pay it to us. Like GK owns, $500 million in
treasury bonds?
Treasury bonds that we get interest on, right?
Okay.
So our clients earn that. We earn that, right?
Interesting.
Banks, Social Security, like everyone buys treasuries. It's actually the most liquid market on earth, right?
Dang.
So what happens is if we keep increasing our debt, arguably the interest that we will have to pay is going to be higher because, like we talked about, your credit is not going to be as good because you have more debt.
So it'd be bad for America, but better for investors? Or are they at a fixed rate?
But at some point, investors like, you know what, America, you're not as good of a credit anymore because now you have so much debt.
So then we stop buying them.
Right. So we start selling them.
Okay.
You don't want, like, you know, like you've increased your net worth.
Hell yeah.
Now you become a good credit for Chase.
Yeah.
Right? Chase Bank. If you went and borrowed a bunch of money and now you have $100,000 in debt,
yeah,
Chase is going to be like, you know what? Maybe you're not going to be a good credit. Maybe I'm not going to give you more credit.
Maybe you're not getting the platinum card after all.
Correct.
Okay.
Right. So it's kind of a weird balance. And the bond market, we always say this, right? The bond market is the adults in the room. The bond market is really what drives a lot of the decisions because if a country starts being reckless, right, then eventually the bond market will start behaving in a way where they're going to sell the bonds, which means interest rates will go up.
Okay.
Which will be detrimental to our debt.
Wow.
Exciting stuff, huh?
That's a lot. It's a lot to digest. I don't even know if you're talking about inflation or interest rates or both, but so inflation kind of determines interest rates.
Yeah, so it's like the tail wagging the dog type of thing, right? The Fed's job is to make sure inflation is not high. So what happens is the Fed raises interest rates when inflation is high and take them down when inflation is low.
Powell.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
That's why Powell is very, very...
So that's why people recently, it feels to us as the American public that inflation is really high and we're kind of...
It doesn't feel. It is high.
It is high, but he hasn't actually been lowering rates as much as people wanted recently.
Because inflation is high.
Oh, wait.
Because if you take rates
They
down,
want him to increase rates?
Well, the rates are high because inflation is high, right? They want him to cut rates, but he's afraid if he cuts rates, inflation goes up.
So they're directly correlated.
Directly correlated.
Exactly. Got it. Well... less government spending on Medicaid and unemployment. I don't know what I just wrote that down. All right, final thoughts. So what do you think that our political allies and enemies are thinking about all this?
They're confused.
They're confused?
They're confused.
More confused than Alex looks over there?
I mean, we are confused, right?
I'm always confused at them. This is nothing new for me.
Yeah, we are confused because all the traditional norms, we're fighting on trade, we're fighting, we're basically fighting with Canada, we're fighting with Mexico, we're kicking people out of, America,
At this point, is there so much news that they're not even fazed by this bill? It's just another American headline that they could kind of take or leave.
Yeah, I think, listen, I talked to a lot of people in Europe. People really just don't understand how some of this stuff is happening right now. Why are we not investing in clean energy when we have hurricanes and fires? Like half of LA is basically burned.
Yeah.
And granted, there's a lot of mismanagement, blah, blah, blah. But ultimately, global warming has a part of it, right? But now we're trying not to invest in clean energy and so there is this massive shift in direction.
40% of the cars in China are EV, and we're trying to go in the opposite direction.
Doesn't make any sense.
Makes no sense.
It kind of seems like with an all-encompassing theme with everything we're talking about is that Americans are really bad at being selfless to future generations. Like everything, all of these
Social
conversations.
Security.
Like everyone just wants what's best for them now, and they could care less about the future.
Yeah, and I think that debt is actually a tax on your futures. You guys are way younger than me, right? You guys are gonna pay this debt, right? Like someone has to pay this bill, right? People that are getting Social Security today are fine because they're gonna, not be around for as long as you guys, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's really what's taxing on this debt, and this is why. We can get into this, but this is why you see a socialist in Zohran in New York, because he's offering all these free things to young people who have a ton of debt, right? People have so much debt because school debt and they can't afford things because inflation and so forth. So when someone comes and say, hey, I'm going to give you all this free shit, you like that idea, even though it's not going to be real, it's not going to happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's really the bigger problem of having debt is we're not thinking long term about that promise that America, if you work hard, you work a good job, you're going to basically put yourself in the middle class and earn more, right? So I think that's really the bigger theme. You're absolutely right, is debt is not good long term.
Yeah. Well, with all this volatility going on, all of these headlines, a lot of people, like we said, we're all kind of confused. We're all starting to worry. I mean, if I hear about the headline, that's when I know it might be kind of serious. But I'm sure you have to deal with all your clients, and they're probably starting to reach out to you now that this bill's getting closer to being fully ratified. Mm-hmm. How do you kind of navigate with your clients to, advise them on what to do financially?
I mean, we're obviously have to look at what's in the bill and what the impact is.
Mm-hmm.
And then steady hand, right? Like we don't panic. We're not reactive. We're more like strategic. So we try to see what happens and what does this mean for different businesses, for different people, for different income brackets, for different, situations, right? And then adjust our plans based on that. Talk to our tax people who know a lot more about this stuff. Put out some information around that. That's kind of what we do, is just try to really make adjustment based on what this is going to mean for us.
Yeah. Awesome. Alex, you got any final thoughts?
No, I think that was great.
Hatem, anything for the listeners?
No, man. Keep it up, man. This is good stuff. I'm glad you're trying to educate the populace.
We're trying.
Yeah, that's great stuff.
Do you want to tell them to go buy a bleach t-shirt?
Go buy a bleach t-shirt made by Chase McCormick.
Yes, sir. Big and Bleach. Check it out. And also go check out the Future Money podcast. Not only can you see Hatem on Schwab, BNN, many of the biggest financial networks in the world broadcasting live out of this studio, he also has his own podcast with Ayal, who we've met twice. So go check out Future Money. I'm sure they're going to be talking more in depth about this topic.
Yeah.
Thank you guys all for listening. Hatem, thank you for being here.
It was fun, dude.
Lots and lots of fun. Thank you, Alex. And go and put money in your Roth.
Nothing but trouble on my mind. That's the attitude that got my ass off the sidelines. You either ride...
Please remember that nothing we say here should be taken as personal advice. This conversation is for entertainment purposes only. If you have questions about your financial situation, please talk to a licensed financial advisor.